Scroll any social feed today and you'll see it. Women in their early 20s, ring lights on, filters maxed, subscription links in the bio. OnlyFans Queens at 22, 23, 24, the world is in her pocket. DMs overflowing, simps on monthly debit, men paying just to look. And here's the brutal part. Society rewards this. She's told, monetize your beauty. Get the bag. If men are thirsty, make them pay. No one mentions what happens at 32. No one mentions 35. No one explains what happens when the same beauty that once made her rich no longer commands the same price. You, as a man, are sold a different story. You're told to grind, to improve, to build, to become. Her prime is given, yours is built. And that's why this conversation matters. Because from OnlyFans Queen to invisible by 35 is not just about her downfall. It's about what this entire culture is doing to both men and women. Right now, there's an entire generation of girls being conditioned to believe that posting their body is a career. Attention is validation. Simp money is a strategy. They don't see the trap. At 23, she thinks the tap will never turn off. At 25, she laughs at men who talk about wife material. At 28, she says, I've got time. At 31, she starts talking about, I'm ready to settle down. At 35, she looks around, and the room is different. The comments slow down. The subscribers dip. Newer, younger faces flood the platform, and suddenly, the empowerment feels more like expiry. Meanwhile, you, the man watching this, you've been told that calling this out is misogyny. You've been shamed into silence. You're expected to pretend there's no difference between a woman who protected her future and a woman who sold her image to the internet permanently for short-term cash and validation. But you feel the difference. You just haven't heard anyone say it out loud. That's what this video is. This is not about shaming women. This is about consequence. This is about psychology. This is about market reality in the dating world that no one is preparing either gender for. Because while she's stacking quick money and followers, what's being quietly eroded is her relationship value in the eyes of serious men. Not because men are insecure, but because men instinctively know what's mine should not already belong to everyone. The modern world will label that as controlling, but your DNA calls it boundary. In this video, we're going to walk the full arc. How a girl becomes an OnlyFans queen. Why she believes the attention is infinite. How the psychology of easy validation destroys long-term pair bonding. And why, by 35, the very men she once overlooked are now the ones she can no longer reach. Stay with me. Because as we move into the next section, we're going to unpack exactly how the OnlyFans mindset is wired, and why understanding it will protect you from wasting your time, your energy, and your future on women who are playing a very short game with very long consequences. Let's be brutally honest. No girl wakes up saying, when I grow up, I want to do OnlyFans on the internet. The OnlyFans Queen is a product, engineered by social media, funded by simps, marketed as empowerment. Here's how it starts. At 18, she posts a selfie, a bit of skin, a bit of attitude. The algorithm smiles, hundreds of likes, thirsty DMs. Goddess, wife me. Drop the OnlyFans. Her brain gets hit with dopamine spikes that used to require real achievements. Now it's just post body equals feel important. By 18, she's been conditioned. She's not thinking, who am I? She's thinking, how do I monetize this? Society applauds. Secure the bag, queen. Your body, your choice. Men are the problem, not what you do with their attention. Of course, she steps onto OnlyFans. The path was laid for her years ago. She tells herself it's just a side hustle, just feet pics, just lingerie, just content, not real life. But here's the psychology twist no one talks about. Once her identity is built on being desired by the masses, she can't go back to being seen by just one man. Real intimacy feels boring compared to thousands of men begging for her. A boyfriend saying, "You're beautiful," doesn't compete with 500 guys paying monthly to prove it. This is not empowerment, this is addiction. Neuroscience 101. Dopamine is about anticipation, not just the reward. Intermittent reinforcement, random big tippers, surprise DMs, viral posts, creates the strongest addictions. OnlyFans is a casino for her ego. Sometimes it's a $5 tip, sometimes it's $500. Sometimes a whale drops $2,000 just to feel special. Every time she thinks of quitting, another big tipper appears. Every time she feels guilty, someone tells her, "You're brave. You're a businesswoman. You're taking your power back from men." No one mentions that her content never disappears. Screenshots, screen recordings, archives, the internet never forgets, but her validation supply absolutely does. And this is where it gets dark for you as a man, because while she is training her brain to crave endless male attention, you are being trained to think you have to compete with that entire crowd just to be enough for her. You're competing with her subscribers' wallets. Comment section worship. Ego inflation from strangers she doesn't even respect. How is a committed relationship supposed to survive when her nervous system is hooked on infinite options and you represent limitation, boundary, and reality? You become the oppressor the moment you say, "I don't want my woman exposing herself online." She doesn't hear love. She hears limitation. She hears, "You're insecure." Why? Because her entire self-worth is now built on public display. The system convinces her, any man who questions this doesn't support her dreams. Any man with standards is controlling. Any man who walks away from it is fragile. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The men who silently walk away from this are the same men she'll cry about not finding at 35. She'll say, "Where are the real men?" They were there. They just didn't want a woman whose intimacy was a product. And this is why you must understand this psychology. Because in the next section, we're going to dive into the part nobody wants to touch. How living as a digital fantasy for thousands of men completely warps her ability to bond, respect, and truly love one man in the real world. And why serious men are right to walk away from it. Here's the part nobody wants to touch. When a woman lives as a digital fantasy, it doesn't just affect her bank account, it rewires her psychology. It changes what she thinks she deserves. It changes what she can even feel in a relationship. You're not competing with other men. You're competing with an entire altered reality. Think about it. In real life, one man loving you is a blessing. Online, thousands of men praising you is the baseline. In a normal relationship, a compliment from your man feels special. A date night matters. His attention is meaningful. But when she's used to 300 comments a day, daily messages from men in 20 different countries, tips, gifts, wish lists fulfilled by strangers, your presence becomes background noise, not because you're weak, not because you're boring, because her nervous system is now calibrated to constant, infinite stimulation. Psychology has a word for this: desensitization. The more stimulation you get, the more extreme it has to be to feel anything. What started as just pictures quickly becomes, well, maybe I'll do a bit more. Maybe I'll offer custom content. Maybe I'll talk dirtier. The bar keeps moving. Her boundaries keep shifting, and every time she crosses a line she once said she'd never cross, something inside her quietly numbs out. Now put that same woman in a relationship. You're asking her to be vulnerable with one man, respect the standards of one man, be faithful to one man, but emotionally she's married to the crowd. She may like you, she may even love you in her own way, But the deepest loyalty she has is to the endless feedback loop. The likes, the tips, the worship, the "you're perfect queen" messages that allow her to avoid ever facing her flaws. And here's where respect dies. How is she supposed to truly respect a man when she has a backup army of men telling her she's always right, always beautiful, always the victim, no matter how she acts? In her mind, you're not a rare prize. You are replaceable. You set a boundary. There are 10 men in her DMs begging to take your place. You call out her behavior. She screens your message next to a simp's long paragraph telling her she deserves the world. Who do you think she listens to? The man who challenges her, or the fans who worship her? This is why real men are walking away. Not because they can't handle a bad girl, not because they're scared of her past, but because they understand something simple and ancient. A woman who belongs to the crowd struggles to belong to one man. Pair bonding, deep emotional attachment, is built through vulnerability, shared struggle, mutual sacrifice, and private intimacy. OnlyFans life is built on the opposite. Performance, ego inflation, transactional intimacy, and public consumption. You can't live in one world and expect to thrive in the other. And that's the harsh reality this video is exposing. In the next section, we're going to move from her psychology to the cold math of the dating market. Why the same men she ignored at 24 are nowhere to be found at 35. Why "I've changed" doesn't erase a digital past. And why men must stop apologizing for having standards in a world that wants them silent. Now let's drop the emotions and talk cold reality. Dating today is a market, not a fairy tale, not a rom-com, a market. And markets have rules, whether we like them or not. From 18 to around 28, the OnlyFans girl sits at the top of that market. She has the perfect storm: youth, fertility, social media reach, and an army of men tripping over themselves to give her attention and money. She confuses attention with long-term value. She thinks, if thousands of men want me now, I'll always be able to get a good man later. But that's not how it works. Men will throw attention at almost anything, but they only commit to what they respect. And respect isn't bought with cleavage, premium snaps, or private links. Respect is earned through character. Here's the brutal curve no one explains to her. Her market power is front-loaded. It peaks early. The world hands it to her young, without discipline, without work, without wisdom. Yours is the opposite. At 20, you are invisible unless you've got freak genetics or money. At 25, you're still building. At 30 plus, you start to solidify. Income, experience, confidence, and emotional control. By 35, if you've been grinding, you're entering your prime. So while her curve is dropping, yours is rising. This is why the "from OnlyFans Queen to invisible by 35" part hits so hard. Because at 35, the average man who did nothing is struggling. But the man who worked on himself now has options. And what does a man with options do? He becomes picky. He remembers the years he was overlooked, rejected, ghosted for more exciting men. He remembers women mocking broke men while they spent their prime on club nights and cameras. He's not bitter, he's just awake. So now he asks, why would I choose a woman whose entire past is online, whose intimacy was a subscription, when I can choose a woman with privacy, modesty, and future-focused thinking? Society screams slut-shaming at this question, but that's emotional manipulation. You are not obligated to invest your life, your legacy, and your children's reputation in a woman whose brand was showing herself to strangers for cash. That's not hate, that's risk management. Think like a man who's built something. You have a career, you have a name, you'll maybe have children. Do you want your kids' classmates being able to pull up their mother's old content on a phone at lunch? Do you want to sit in a work function knowing half the room has seen what's supposed to be yours alone? That's not insecurity. That's natural male instinct to protect what's sacred. Evolutionary psychology has been clear for decades. Men prioritize youth, fertility, and fidelity. Women prioritize security, resources, and status. When she chose OnlyFans, she traded perceived fidelity for fast attention and cash. That's a trade. Trades have price tags, and the price is this. At 35, the men she finally wants. Disciplined, established, respected, and selective. Look at her digital past and simply say, "No, thank you." Not loudly, not angrily, just silently. She calls it men being intimidated. But the truth is simpler. High-value men aren't intimidated. They're just not interested. In the next section, we're going to step into that moment she never thought would arrive. The panic, the "where did all the good men go" phase. The late-night regret she can't post about. And more importantly, we'll talk about what you, as a man, must do to avoid becoming her emotional retirement plan when the market stops validating her. Here's the part she never posted on her story. At 22, she's laughing at the idea of settling down. At 26, she's focusing on herself. At 30, she's not rushing anything. At 35, something shifts. The same women who once said, "I'll never lower my standards," now quietly start saying, "I'm finally ready for a serious man." Translation: I partied through my prime, monetized my image, treated commitment like an accessory, and now I want a man to cover the bill for my choices. You'll see the signs. Her content suddenly becomes more wholesome. She starts talking about healing, divine feminine, soft era. She deletes old posts, locks certain accounts, rebrands. But the internet doesn't forget, and neither does the male subconscious. By now, she's noticing something terrifying. The DMs are still there, but different. Fewer high-status men. More weirdos, more desperation, fewer serious offers. The men she actually wants. Silent. Psychologically, this is where cognitive dissonance hits. For over a decade, she's been told, you can do what men do. You can live wild, then settle whenever you feel like it. You'll always be the prize. But her lived reality says the opposite. She sees younger women getting the attention she used to. Men her age dating 25-year-olds. Her former backup guys, now married, engaged, or thriving without her. So what does she do? She pivots hard. Suddenly she wants a real man who can lead. Emotional safety. Someone to build with. And that's where you come in, if you're not careful. Because you, as a good man with a conscience, might feel tempted to save her. You see the sadness in her eyes. You hear about her trauma, her bad relationships, her toxic exes. You hear, "I've changed. I was young. I didn't know what I was doing." Maybe she has grown. Maybe there's sincere regret there. But you must ask yourself, is she truly choosing you? Or is she choosing escape from the consequences of her own path? There's a dark pattern here. The same men she once found boring become very attractive when the party slows down. The followers stop paying like they used to. The fear of aging alone creeps in. And many men step into that role. They become the emotional retirement plan, the man who absorbs her past, her pain, her regret, her baggage, while getting a fraction of the youth, beauty, and loyalty she once gave to chaos and strangers. Brother, hear this clearly. You are not obligated to be her cleanup crew. Compassion is good. Understanding is noble. But self-sacrifice without wisdom is self-betrayal. If you choose a woman with a wild past, do it with eyes open, not from guilt or pressure. Don't let society shame you into lowering your standards because everyone has a past. Yes, everyone has a past, but not everyone sold it as a product. In the final section, we're going to bring this all back to you. How to protect your peace, how to choose wisely in a broken market, and how to build a life so strong that you never have to fear being alone, while women who mocked men like you wake up to a reality no one warned them about. Let's bring this home. This video was never really about OnlyFans. It's about a system that profits from women selling themselves and men switching off their discernment. From OnlyFans Queen to invisible by 35 is not just her story. It's a warning to you. Because while she was told, use men, monetize men, drain men, you were told, never judge, never have standards, accept everything, or you're insecure. Understand this, a man without standards is a man without self-respect. You are not hateful because you don't want your future wife naked on the internet. You are not controlling because you want privacy, modesty, and loyalty. You are not fragile because you see red flags in a woman who spent a decade selling intimacy to the highest bidder. You are awake. Modern culture will call your boundaries misogyny because it wants you compliant, apologetic, and easy to manipulate. It wants you to feel guilty for wanting what men have always wanted: a loyal partner, a safe home, a woman who protects her own dignity, not just for herself, but for her future family. And here's the twist. While the world sells women the lie that they can live like there's no tomorrow, it sells you the lie that you'll always be there to catch them when tomorrow arrives. Brother, you don't have to play that role. You are allowed to say, I wish you well, but I'm not signing up for that. You are allowed to walk away from women who think attention is oxygen, women who think male commitment is a consolation prize after chaos, women who see your stability as something to consume, not to honor. Instead, focus on what you can actually control: your mission, your body, your mind, your finances, and your spirit. When you build a strong life, you stop negotiating with desperation. You stop trying to convince women of your worth. You become the man who chooses, not the man waiting to be chosen. And here's the beautiful irony. The more you prioritize your path, the less likely you are to end up with a woman whose entire identity is built on being seen by everyone and valued by no one deeply. Remember this, you are not here to save anyone from the consequences of their own wants. If a woman spent her prime years selling fantasy, chasing ego highs, mocking stable men, it is not your duty to be the nice guy who erases that scoreboard. Forgive if you want to. Understand if you choose to, but never forget what the choices mean. Now, I want you to do something simple. Ask yourself, honestly, what kind of woman do I want raising my children? Will I be proud of her past when my son or daughter asks about it one day? If the answer makes your stomach tighten, listen to that. That's not insecurity. That's your instinct trying to protect your future. If this message hit you, if it made you rethink what you tolerate, if it put words to things you felt but couldn't articulate, then don't keep it to yourself. Share this with a brother who's about to ignore every red flag because he's lonely. Share this with a man who thinks he has to accept anything just to not be alone. And if you want more content that cuts through the lies, that blends psychology, philosophy, and raw truth for men, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and support the mission using the link in the description below. You are not crazy. You're just surrounded by a world that wants you numb. Stay sharp, and above all, protect your peace.